Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figure It Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome to Rare Variants, a series in which I talk about our favorite video game consoles, but specifically focused on oddball versions of them that were released in one country or another, or a special edition, something to that effect. And today we'll be giving a little love to our friend, the Nintendo GameCube. Before we do that though, if you guys could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, as well as check out all my social media stuff in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, my travel channel. I really appreciate the support over there, especially on Patreon. All the links are in the description. Thank you very much. Now, again, we're talking about our buddy, the Nintendo GameCube. So you might be looking at it and being like, oh, that's a really cool color of the GameCube. That's what I thought. Oh, I wish I could have that. That's what I thought. Wouldn't it be awesome to own that? That's what I thought. No. Unfortunately, this is a very weird one. But like, this didn't just come out in some country. This isn't like some weird German version of the system that only came out or whatever. This is actually development kit hardware, which will seem sort of familiar because the last video I did in this series was actually on the PS1 debugging station, which incidentally is actually the exact same color as this thing and is owned by the same person. A huge shout out to my buddy Sunshine, who actually found both of these locally in West Virginia of all places, and he bought them and he loaned them both to me so we can make this video. So huge shout out to Sunshine. I hope you guys will give him a thank you in the comments below. But yeah, so let's talk about it. What exactly does this development kit piece of GameCube hardware actually do? If you saw the PS1 debugging station video, and if you didn't, I will go over it anyway, the point of that device was essentially that when Sony came out, they're like, okay, people are going to develop games for us, whether it's us ourselves or other companies, we have to give them a version of the console that can read all their games. So it's region-free, and it can read burned games, essentially. That way debuggers, logically, while they're working on games, are like, okay, I'm not going to take a build of the game to see if it runs by sending it to the factory to have it pressed on a disc and then sent back to me. That's ridiculous. Let me just burn it in a CD burner, try out the game, and write down the bugs. It just makes the process more efficient. This is the same basic idea, except vastly more gimped, which is really annoying. So this version does not region free, and this version doesn't really read burned discs either. What this is essentially a GameCube that can't play GameCube games. It's a little more complicated than that, but like, you see this copy of Ikaruga I've got here, right? This is the final retail edition of the North American version of the game. If you pop that into this GameCube, it doesn't do anything. This is why I don't even have it set up. There's no point. There's nothing to show you. If you turn the system on, it just displays a normal GameCube setup screen. You try to put a normal GameCube disc in it, it just says no disc. Because this is called the GameCube NR Reader. It has a very specific format it's designed to read, which is essentially burned versions of the games. So, just to morbid curiosity, I decided to burn a copy of Ikaruga as well to see if that would do anything. And the answer was no, it does not. And yes, the device does work. That's not the problem. See, basically when Nintendo was approaching the same debugging process with the GameCube, they didn't want a system, I guess, like Sony had that was just really easy to use. They wanted something a little bit more policeable. So the GameCube NR Reader is specifically designed not to read the retail discs. It's also specifically designed not to read standard burned versions of the disc. When Nintendo would send this out, they would also include burned discs specifically for developers. They're called NR discs. They look exactly like, normal DVD-Rs, mini DVD-Rs, but they specifically have the GameCube logo all over it. Now, they're just different enough that this GameCube was designed to read them. So, unfortunately, I don't have any of those. In fact, if you go online, blank ones or even used ones with released games, which don't actually contain anything interesting on them, can be hundreds and hundreds of dollars, possibly even more than the system. So there's really no point in getting one. And if you did get one, all it would do is boot it up and just kind of play as normal. That's kind of the whole point. So that's where the system is interesting, but kind of useless. It was just Nintendo having an extra layer of security on that process, making this GameCube kind of useless and therefore maybe not tempting. I'm just speaking, kind of waxing inane here because I never worked in development, obviously. But I would think if you were an employee at someone like who had access to the PS1 debugging kit, the temptation to keep it might be kind of interesting because it's region free and plays all the burn stuff. The temptation to keep this might have been far lesser since it can't do anything except with the specialized discs that you possess, which you only have because Nintendo sent them to you and you would run out very quickly. So I can kind of see that. But again, I would also assume that would have been kind of annoying for developers because you can't just use off-the-shelf stuff to keep testing your game. Like, let's say you're working on your game and you do like 28 builds of it or whatever, but they only sent you a 15 pack of like discs or whatever. Do you have to be kind of selective? Do you have to keep reordering them? It just seems kind of annoying. Anyway, but again, I didn't work in that, and I don't know anybody that did, so I don't really have any further comment on it. But interestingly, if you actually take this GameCube apart, you can actually remove the disk drive and replace it with a standard one. And once you've done that, this GameCube is actually stock at that point. It'll go back to reading North American discs and so on and so forth. It actually also, you can put a Xeno chip in it if you really want to and modify it, thus it does work. In fact, there's even firmware hacks specifically for the NR Reader, but they require you to hack the system first, that way you can burn games to it. Either way, regardless of what you do, you have to modify the system in order to read discs. And the collector in me just goes, if you're the kind of guy who owns a GameCube NR Reader, chances are you own a regular GameCube. Thus, there's really no reason to ever touch this, because the whole thing that makes it special is the fact that it's development kit hardware. Thus, Sunshine, who is the owner of it, hasn't done anything to it, and I would encourage him not to, but that's entirely his choice. The unit itself doesn't have a whole lot that's different externally aside from the color, with just a couple of notable points. The most obvious of which is a region switch installed on the side going between USA and Japan. Funny enough, this is actually a common modification people used to make to the GameCube all the time. I even own a couple that have a switch on the side that go between the USA and Japan, mostly because Nintendo essentially recycled the same units with just a slight variation, and then you can easily link them together with a simple wiring. So people would do that. The European stuff is notably absent from this, as it often is in modifications, probably because the boards are a little bit different. And because European GameCubes kind of got screwed in multiple different ways. They did get RGB SCART support, whereas the North American and Japanese ones didn't, but they were cut out of the progressive scan capabilities in their software. And to be fair, there was only like 10 exclusive games in Europe anyway, but anyway, the point is it was a little bit different, and it's not mentioned here at all. On the bottom, there are stickers indicating that it is in fact the NR Reader. There's an additional sticker that claims that this one was actually made in the UK, which is even more bizarre because it doesn't have any sort of capabilities to play the European versions of the games. But then again, I don't know who actually physically made it. SN Systems Limited? I don't know if just because they're based in the UK, maybe they were just doing an engineering gig. I have no idea. But regardless, yeah, interesting all the same. So, the GameCube NR Reader. I really do like the color. It is kind of a shame that this was never released in any other way. Today, these are a few $100s if you want to get them. Again, they're just novelty for GameCube Super collectors. And again, you can modify it if you really want to, but I don't really see the point in it, because the whole point of it is just to be, you know, a nice display piece. But yeah, that's, as much as I hate to say it, that's kind of about all there is to it. The extra little black piece here on the bottom, also interestingly, is a slightly different shape with a little hole protruding out of it in case of, I don't know, maybe some sort of cabling they wanted to run through there. I don't have access to any of that additional stuff. And again, I would have booted it up for you, but there really is nothing to see, because once you boot it up, it's just the standard GameCube screen and just says it can't play a disc. You can use your imagination, you just saw it in your head, I know. But yeah, that's it. So thank you guys very much for watching. A huge shout out to Sunshine there. Appreciate it very much loaning this to me, and now I can give it back to him, so that'll be great as well. So thank you guys very much for watching. Please do me a favor, like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, as well as check out all the social media stuff in the description: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, as well as my travel channel. I appreciate the support on all those places. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all later.